Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Welcome, everyone, to the Game Over Calgary post-game show. I am here today with my fellow Game Over Calgary host, as well as Game On host, Conrad Krausert. Conrad, definitely not what we were hoping for from the Flames tonight. Obviously, handed our first regulation loss of the season, which is never great. But I guess right off the bat, how are you doing on this Thursday night?
I'm doing all right. The PDO bender had to come to an end at some point. But all in all, doing pretty good considering what a performance it was, even in a loss from our Calgary Flames.
Absolutely. I mean, I will say I don't think it was the best performance we've seen. I think they can do a lot better, but
But it wasn't Seattle.
100%. And there are a couple bright points to what we saw tonight. Again, not as many as we've seen in past games, but absolutely there are some positives to talk about. But before we kind of jump into tonight's game, I just wanted to say, if for all the hockey loving fans out there, please check out our flagship show of the Game Over Network on the Game Over Network channel, Hyperdrive Hockey. All things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries, whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the @Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on the Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. Now, Conrad, going to the Flames game tonight, I know both of us were talking prior to starting the stream tonight, and one of our big takeaways, one of our bright spots for what we saw in tonight's game with the Hurricanes was Dan Vladar. Unfortunately, it is kind of a mixed bag. While he did have a pretty nice performance, all things considered, in that third period, we saw him take a bit of a bump off the post, jamming his leg or his right leg into the post. And for the rest of the game, he was kind of laboring. So I guess, what did you think of Dan's performance tonight, and how concerned are you in terms of a injury kind of arising from tonight?
I'm very concerned. Dan was not comfortable. You could see it when he was skating to the bench when he did eventually get pulled for the extra attacker, that he was in a significant amount of discomfort. But for a guy that faced 43 shots, stopped 39 of them, Dan Vladar certainly was a bright spot for that squad. Darth Vladar turned into the form that we saw him in with his first year with the Flames prior to his hip injury. But as you said, we were talking in the intermission or between the game and starting the show about if you jam that foot into the post like Vladar seemed to have, it really can shoot up all the way through your leg to the hip. We both have experience at various levels of junior hockey, and I had a pretty good friendship with both the Canucks goaltenders, and I talked to them, and they were very similar. We were in a league where the posts were not were not drilled in; they were still the stamp-in pegs. But even then, they said once you jam your leg into one of those posts, you almost feel it all the way up your body. So I'm sure Dan was feeling that all the way up his leg.
Yeah, I didn't look good for him. Obviously, there's going to be. We kind of have to wait and see what it is. It could just be, hurt a little bit, and then he kind of something he needs to skate off. Hopefully, that is the case. But of course, it's never. It's always a concern until we know exactly what's going on. I would say right off the bat tonight, in terms of giving him the start, I don't know where you stand on this, but at least for me, after kind of what we saw from Wolf over the last couple of games, I would have liked to maybe see him kind of keep up what he was doing. So seeing Vladar kind of get the start tonight was a bit of a surprise. And I mean, just I hope it doesn't come back to bite the Flames a little bit.
So I don't think you're the only one that's expecting Wolfie to get the run out in a majority of these games at home. I'm just scrolling X, I guess we're supposed to call it now. And that seems to be the number one comment that a lot of the Flames punditry that is on the site seems to think as well, that even though we were expecting Wolf, when we do see Vladar come in, he's performed well. But how many times do we want to see Dan Vladar? Obviously, we may have that number drop with the injury, but he certainly was making the most of his opportunity when he saw the ice today. And, like, I'm seeing this here from a commenter on X. Vladar took the L, but it could have been something like 16-2 without his performance, and I don't disagree with that whatsoever.
Oh, absolutely. I will say, like I said, I question maybe the nod to him tonight, but from what we saw in the pipes, by no means was this loss something that you hand to him and say, maybe if we had somebody else in net, score would have been different. I wholeheartedly agree. Same thing from what we saw in the Penguins game as well. I do think it's a completely different score if neither Wolf or Vladar played as well as they did, and Vladar made some both timely saves and some huge stops to give Calgary a chance in this game as well.
Yeah, and I guess to help both of our goaltenders, we're going to talk a little bit more in period number 2 about what we didn't do well that leads to goaltenders facing more shots. Well, I'll leave that tease where it lies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just like in general, tonight felt more of like a good team with a subpar record playing a team that has a great record, but on paper they're not really the best team in the world. And obviously we can assign the roles to the teams in that game. So I as we said, I think Vladar was a bright spot to what we saw tonight. Hoping that what he was laboring isn't long term by any stretch of the imagination, and that whether that comes down to whether he's a trade fodder for the Flames down the road here. Obviously, we need to have a healthy goalie if we want to pull off something like that. Obviously, the value goes down a little bit if he is laboring. I will, while we're on the topic of goalies and whether there is a future in which Dan is going to miss some time, what are your thoughts on giving not only Wolf, but as well Devin Cooley a little bit of time in the crease?
I think if we are going to see a short to medium term without Dan Vladar, it needs to be 80 to 90% Dustin Wolf. As much as I love the feel-good story of Devin Cooley and believe that he is a golden retriever back there in the locker room, I think if we believe, as we should, that Dustin Wolf is the future, he needs to get the lion's share of the starts if we're going to be without Dan Vladar for any period of time.
I agree. I do agree. Like I've said a million times, I think Dustin's accomplished everything he can at the AHL level. And there is no benefit to having him kind of a one-on, one-off kind of guy on the team as well. If we really want to see him develop, we need to see him getting starts. And so, I mean, I by no means am happy that there could be a potential injury with Dan, but, for Wolf's sake, could this potentially be a bit of a blessing in disguise in terms of starts? Who knows? But I guess, do we want to move on a little bit into a little bit of our critiques from what we saw tonight?
I've got one thing to say before Matt C brings up a good point. We have not been very good against the Carolina Hurricanes franchise overall. If I'm reading this correctly, we are 4-7 against the Carolina Hurricanes. Oh no, overall, never mind. We are 28, 48, and 7 against the Canes, because obviously we played them when the tie still was in effect in the NHL. That's pretty abysmal for a team you only see twice a year. That's not a lot of sample.
It's not great. I definitely feel like they are a team in this league that has our number. I remember, I guess you can call it the good old days when
Kipper versus Cam Ward.
Yeah, those were some battles. I don't know if it got much better than that some nights, but I was talking maybe more so with the fresh introduction of Elias Lindholm. I feel like a core memory for me is watching the Flames knock off the Canes on the road, and I believe it was Lindholm doing the storm surge as more of a taunt to the Caniacs. I feel like that was maybe the last time we saw the Flames come out. Don't quote me on that by any stretch of the imagination, but
I feel like I have a similar memory.
I feel like that is probably one of the very few times we've maybe come out on top in the battle of, I guess, cross conference rivals for sure. Before we, I guess, switch topics here, I do want to share that the Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise $15K, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. So we want to make our family bigger and just keep pumping out this amazing content we're all doing so far. So if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see as giveaways from these kind of crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, or of course our Discord server, which you can join and chat with myself, Conrad, and our other fantastic Game Over hosts, Peter and Anand as well. So you can reach us on any kind of platform we have to talk shop and all that kind of stuff as well. Now, switching gears into a little bit of a different topic for tonight. Our biggest critique, or one of our critiques from what we saw tonight, was both a mix of special teams and what we saw in the face-off dot tonight. Conrad, I'll let you kind of expand on that point because I know you were pretty adamant to raise a few points tonight.
So we've heard all the reports. Obviously, Frank Cervalli was the first one to come out with it, that the Flames are looking for a right-handed centerman. At this point, I feel the Flames should be looking for anybody with any kind of NHL experience, because the Flames tonight were at 41% in the face-off dot. That is simply not good enough for a professional franchise. And a stat that in a perfect world should be 50-50, both teams winning equal numbers. We're 9 percentage points off of that. And it doesn't just hurt at even strength, it hurts on the power play. You saw it numerous times where the Flames lost that offensive zone faceoff. The Canes would get a clear, and then the Flames couldn't get a zone entry. And then when your Canes goals came straight off faceoff plays on special teams, like, it's just not excusable. If Michael Backlund's the only one that can win a faceoff for this team, we are in huge trouble.
Absolutely. When I first saw Frank kind of break the news of looking for a top six center, I was a little bit on the fence. I think my biggest concern is what we're kind of giving up in return. For a team that is in the middle of a rebuild, I don't necessarily love the idea of parting ways with prospects and picks. So obviously I won't kind of dive into that part of things. But after what we saw tonight, I will say I see where the Flames are coming from in terms of what they are kind of currently shopping. As you said, the faceoffs went 42-30 in Carolina's favor, and obviously, by no stretch of the imagination does you could make the argument that faceoffs win hockey games, because in order to win a faceoff, or in order to have possession of the puck, there's a few ways of doing that, and winning faceoffs is one. And 42 times tonight, the Flames had a chance of getting the puck for themselves, and they essentially just gave it away. So that part of the game is more pivotal than you might think. And for a team to be struggling on that, the possession numbers are obviously going to be down, and in turn, time with the puck is also down.
And this is the one critique I'm going to have of Craig Conroy at this point. We had a right-handed center in the system that we decided to put on waivers. Instead of sending down one of our 8th defensemen, we decided to send Cole Schwint down on the big waiver day instead of carrying at least one right-handed center. Like, it's a systemic problem at this point.
Yeah,
Because if we look at the A, everyone's left-handed down the middle as well. Like there's not help coming.
I totally agree, and I think just in this league in general, centers are a hot commodity, and a true centerman is somebody that is difficult to find on the market, I would say, because teams know kind of how pivotal they are, and for as much as you can kind of give Vegas grief for cap compliancy stuff and roster moves and all that, like, hey, they saw a opportunity to add a centerman to their team and they jumped on it. So can't really blame them there. And as you said, I mean, that is something that I'm sure Craig Conroy is already, kicking himself for. I'm just looking in the chat right now, and apologies for my pronunciation here, but Aon Dale, 41% was a huge improvement over the first period as well. Yeah, I believe at some point in that first don't quote me on it, but I feel like face-offs were in the vicinity of like 24-9 in favor of Carolina. I saw that and I just cringed seeing it. So 100%. I mean, second and third was a bit of an improvement, but still, by no stretch of the imagination is the face-off percentage that what we saw tonight something that is a good talking point for sure. Now,
Sorry for the smile. I just got a tweet from former Game Over host Audie James, because I put out a tweet today that asked, if I am the new Audie James of the show. I don't know if there's long-time visitors, but Audie, for periods of times in the original Game Over, was cursed. Couldn't broadcast a win if it was Audie James hosting. And I've gotten both of the Flames losses this season when I'm hosting. So I put out a little bit of a tweet poking the bear, and Naughty says, just got back to me 5 minutes ago saying, you need more losses under your belt, rookie. Let's just say I'm 100% on losses on the season. That's a stat that Audie can't match.
Oh no, don't let the Flames know, or they might ask us to keep you off our streams here.
It's the worst.
I'm 1 for 1 right now, so I mean I can't say I'm much better than you, but I do have 1 win under my belt. So I will take that. Another critique that we kind of had from tonight's game was special teams. And I mean, to put it bluntly, there was some, I would call officiating blunders, at least from what we saw tonight. Definitely a few missed calls for the Flames specifically. Again, I'll flip this to you and kind of let you take over this kind of talking point as well.
Well, let's just say our special teams are subpar where they are. And I honestly thought this was supposed to be one of the areas of improvement from the point of view of coaching staff changes, because that was one of the things it was Mark Savard who was our coach last year for that, correct? If my brain's functioning near correctly today.
I think you're right. I also don't know what I ate for breakfast this morning, so you're asking somebody that you probably have a better memory of, but I will say that does make sense to me, I would say.
But like, we have the same darn problems in the same darn ways with new coaching staffs. Like, our zone entries are apoplectic unless it's Connor Zary entering the zone. We could get away with that when it was JG13 taking that slingshot pass, because he just had the sheer skill level to get away with it. But we don't have a player of the skill of Johnny Gaudreau, nor will we likely ever again in the one-on-one rush situations. So our power play needs to get either more creative or more skilled. There's no way we're getting more skilled this year, I don't think. So we're going to have to get more creative.
I agree.
0% on the power play again today.
It just, like, I find, like, at this stage of hockey, most teams, every team knows how to defend a very basic, a very common power play. And I feel like the Flames are a team that run a very generic power play. Set up in the formation and just kind of pass it around on the perimeter. You could pass it around on the perimeter all you want, but all you're going to do is just find ways to shoot from the perimeter, right? None of those are going to be the high danger passing, scoring plays that separate top power play teams in this league. And day after day, season after season, it feels like the Flames are just running through this same power play. And like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and being surprised that nothing's changing. And that feels like what they're doing on the power play. What's changed in the last couple of seasons? And by realizing that nothing's changed, why aren't we doing anything differently? And you bring up a very good point. I would say the Flames power play hasn't looked good since Johnny Gaudreau's been on this team. And as you said, there will most likely not be a player of his kind of caliber and his talent in those facets of the game that we'll see for, if not forever, a very, very long time. So there is just, you have to add some sort of creativity, right?
Yeah, unless the ship goes down from here and we end up drafting Gavin McKenna and Landon Dupont, then maybe we'll have a different conversation.
As a big fan of the Western League, I will be very, very happy if that's the case, I will say.
Yeah. And Matt C has a comment here. Power play 2 is an absolute dumpster fire. We saw 2 games ago when they threw Riley into the mix. We went to 2 D-men. That did nothing. I love Michael Backlund. He's our captain, longest term Flame in a long time. Back should not be the one power play quarterbacking power play unit 2. He should be out there with Coleman on the kill, because that's our best 2 penalty kill forwards in my mind. But what else is there? Like, that's the unfortunate part about where this team is at in the retool or the rebuild.
I agree. And you mentioned, like, running 2 defense on power play 2. Look at our defensive team. What players deserve and what players are creative enough to run a power play? Weegar, sure. Anderson, sure. But who else would you say is good to add to the mix in terms of power play? Like,
Manov, maybe?
Sure. Like, I mean, yeah, you can make the argument that he used to be a forward all those years ago. Sure. But, I mean, like, let's be serious here. Like, every good power play in this league is running the 4 forwards, 1 defense. And for a lot of these power plays, the defensemen that they have on that power play are the most elite of elite defenders. And as much as I love Rasmus Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar, I mean, none of them are Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes, for example, right?
They are good, not elite.
100%. And so to just justify putting 2 defense out on power play 2 is just like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And even power play 1, like, we don't have an Alexander Ovechkin just waiting for that trigger man pass.
Or even like what with Monahan, that he would just sit in the slot and wait for those corner passes to find him, right? Like, there's nobody on this team that can play the slot like Monahan used to be able to play the slot, right?
Well, I think we do have him.
Oh?
I think his name is Blake Coleman.
Sure, okay.
But the ceiling's just not there.
Well said. I will agree with you there, for sure. It's kind of 2 different trains of thought between those 2, unfortunately.
But we'll beat this drum, I think, until the cows come home, if they let us. So maybe we should head on to period number 3.
I agree. I feel like this won't be the last conversation we'll have of this, so let's kind of save our words in that sense. But before we can head to period 3, just wanted to shout out, of course, Game Over has you covered for after the game, what we're doing right now. But in order to get ready to watch Flames games, you've got to get your game on too. So Game On Calgary is a short form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Calgary Flames. It's hosted by our very own Anand, as well as Conrad, who is joining me on Game Over tonight. And they will get all of your Flames news, and they will recap it in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday, on the Game Over Calgary YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Calgary. So, obviously, Conrad, you've been doing some phenomenal work with Game On. Just posted a video today. I won't spoil it, but it's talking about one of the Flames' best prospects and maybe a little bit of trouble he got into last night, I believe, as well as some recapping some of our boys that have missed a little bit of time with injuries. So I won't say anything more because I highly suggest heading on to Game On Calgary to give those videos a listen. Now, period 3. I don't think we could really settle on one talking point here, so we kind of want to make this a bit of a bits and bytes portion of the show, and I will go first. I'm going to try my best this season to remain optimistic with what are seeing from the Flames, and aside from Vladar, sorry, who I again thought he had quite a good game tonight, I would say the other person that would be in my good books tonight is Connor Zary, for a game that I personally feel like fell a little bit flat on the offensive end of the ice, with very low scoring chances and very little high danger scoring chances. I feel like Connor Zary was one of the very few Flames that were kind of trying to make a difference on the other end of the ice, and it was nice to see. And it's also something that we've seen over the course of this season as well, starting night 1 with his overtime winner against the Canucks. So if we are talking about playing with a little bit of creativity, I feel like there's no better guy on in the locker room than Connor Zary at this moment, and I thought tonight was no different.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I called him Snakebit because he's been around the play but just can't find the back of the net ever since that overtime game winner he had against the Canucks. So I think that's fair. Someone else I feel deserves at least a little bit of recognition is the Calgary-born defenseman Jake Bean. Gets his first in his hometown team's jersey with his shot from the point. Seeing eye just found the top corner, and so shout out to Jake Bean for also being one of those performers. Didn't love his defensive game, but I didn't love really any of our defensemen's games tonight. So
I will say
he kind of blended it in that way.
Of the 3 pairings, I think him and Braden Pahal were probably the best of the 3, but as you said,
which is shocking.
100%. And as you said, I don't think anybody needs to be going home tonight thinking that they were great behind the blue line. That kind of brings me to another kind of thought I had, and it was, I talked a little bit with Peter about it on Tuesday's game, but I feel like game in, game out, we're kind of starting to see a little bit of a defensive weakness behind the blue line, and I think a little bit of that was just, I feel like there wasn't much effort in terms of picking up a empty guy, putting sticks on pucks. I definitely think there was a big defensive lapse that led to a couple goals tonight. I don't know where you stand on this, Conrad, but
I just feel this is kind of what we can expect out of the 6 or 8 guys. I was in the chat for that conversation, and I raised the point, are we going to really take out Jake Bean as the only other guy on that left side to bring in a defensive stalwart? It's just, we just don't have the options unless we're going to have guys playing on their offside, and that just adds a whole nother wrench. You're taking an extra second to collect passes. You have to think the game almost completely differently. I had a talk with former Calgary Canucks captain and now attending Albertus Magnus Connor Bertamini about how he saw the game when he had to play his offside, and he was like, I felt like I was speaking French when I was out there. I had to completely think differently, communicate differently. He just didn't enjoy it. So, and that's a pretty high level player, obviously not an NHLer, but somebody who's going to NCAA Div 3, that's still better than 90% of us, right? So it gives you at least a little bit of insight into why we shouldn't go that route if we want to see things improve on the back end.
Oh, I completely, wholeheartedly agree. Again, I feel like this is another topic that will be a commonplace for this season. So
Especially if
let's
we trade Rass.
100%. So let's not. Well, actually, I'll add to that. Matt C again in the chat. Going back to our conversation about potentially picking up a top six center, can we package up three or four third pair defenders for a good C? I mean,
What third or fourth pair of defenders do we have?
I was about to say, if we send a couple of those guys packing, if we are concerned about the blue line right now, what is the blue line going to look like if we deal a few guys? So that tangent or topic is something that scares me in terms of what we would do, considering what we have on the back end right now.
That being said, we do have a bit of a log jam in terms of guys that are down in the AHL who could potentially make their way to be that fifth, sixth D man. But are we really wanting to have a fifth pair of, let's say we trade Hanley, are we really wanting the Jared Tenorti, Jeremy Poirier as our third pair in the NHL in the year 2024? Is that better?
If we want to kind of embrace this tank, I mean, I think that's a pretty easy decision. But if we want
to win games,
if we want to stay competitive,
success.
100%. It's something that's scary. While we're on this bits and bytes kind of segment of the show, I can flip this to you. What else kind of stood out to you for tonight's game that you wanted to chat about?
I hate this metric, but it's something that people always flip to. This is the deserve to win-o-meter.
Oh,
my loathed statistical simulator of the games, and the Flames deserve to win-o-meter today was 19, and I think that's being generous.
I was about to say that is a little high for my standards. I'm very familiar with the deserve to win-o-meter, and I feel like sometimes what I see come out of that is quite laughable. And today is one of those occasions, and because it is a little heavy on what we saw from the Flames tonight. I couldn't agree more.
For sure, but I'm going to give the shout out to the chat. Now as we're about to head into overtime, because I'm just looking at our timer. Let's see if you guys have any questions we haven't already answered. Get those questions in now, because I think we got to talk a little bit about the merch.
Absolutely. You said it best. While you guys flood our live chat with questions, as you said, Conrad, we have merch, and what better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, which is currently on sale, and want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our Live or Die by the Goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Feel free to take a look in the shop on our website. I know, Conrad, you've already picked up some merch. You want to maybe share a little bit about what you're going to be rocking with pretty quick here?
I got the established tee, which is on sale for the rest of the month. So I'm looking forward to having that one come in. I have heard that if you are looking at apparel, maybe a few changes coming to the existing designs. So if you're kind of hovering, maybe wait a few more days as we get things a little bit tuned up. Brady just wasn't happy with how some of his design ended up getting through the printer. But I think it's awesome. I'm really looking forward to rocking our little robot head all throughout Calgary.
I agree. I mean, Andrew, the fantastic Andrew Berkshire, has already done a little bit of modeling with the Game Over Montreal merch, and that just looks phenomenal. As you said, we might be going through a little bit of changes here and there with some of the merch available, but I know myself, like you, am very excited to start repping Game Over, the entire Game Over network. So that's going to be fantastic.
The Burke Steel from the modeling.
Well said.
Is what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
Since we don't have any questions in the chat, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
How big are you on baseball?
Uh, that is something that I'm not overly something that I don't follow. Unfortunately, I am kind of live or die by hockey. Sorry,
That's fair.
I'll add in the NFL. So if you want to chat the NFL with me, I will talk your ear off. But baseball is something that I'm not too well versed in. I can tell you that I know the World Series is the Dodgers and the Yankees.
Who,
um,
I was going to ask you who you got.
I Tough call. I will probably go with the Dodgers because I'm a fan of Shohei Ohtani. I think what he did with, I believe he was 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases,
Yep.
is quite impressive. And again, I can't say
And
I
it's only
have
going to be more impressive next year when he's pitching as well.
exactly. So I can't say I'm super well versed in baseball, but I think my loyalty for the World Series will be with the Dodgers. Where are you standing? I see there's a few questions in the chat, so maybe we can get your perspective and then answer some cues.
I'm a Padres fan, so I'm cheering for the meteor that ends us all.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, and also there's a big Flames fan. I don't know if he's around in the chat today. I know we watch it sometimes. Noah Adler. We kind of give each other the ribbing because he's a big Yankees fan. So I just can't cheer for either team.
With you being a Braves fan, that reminds me a little bit of,
Padres.
or sorry, Padres. My apologies. With you being a Padres fan, I am. I understand your pain in terms of watching the Oilers and Panthers in the Stanley Cup final last year. So I get where you're coming from in that sense. Now, questions. Aondale, where do you want to see us go with PP2? What is your ideal build for it? Great question. Conrad, did you want to take the floor here?
I think we give the youth a go here. Like I think this should be where you're giving Connor Zari his flowers. Let me like I think that maybe I'm just pulling the full Flames lineup here because I'd like to see something like Pospisil or maybe even Ryan Lomberg
Ooh,
manning that net front.
I kind of like that. I was gonna say I feel like if we want to put a body in the slot, a Lomberg would be great. I know he didn't play tonight, but I mean, call me crazy, but a Klapka in front of the net, trying to get somebody out, trying to get him out of the crease, is something that is something I'd be willing to test out. I mean, it
I
can't
like
get any
having
worse.
6'8". I like having 6'8" in front of the net.
100%.
Like let's say Connor Zari, you need a center out there. Hey, Kirkland's been moved up to third center. Maybe he should be the center in there to add some more spark. And then let's do one of Lomberg, Pospisil, and or as you said, Brain 6'8" Adam Klapka as the forwards. You can probably throw Klapka maybe in at that. If he's not in net front, maybe you throw him at the line because he's got a shot.
Yep.
Hey, call up Martin Firk. Like that's maybe the answer to this all.
There
Let's
you go.
bring in the 108-mile-an-hour slap shot.
Well,
We
I
did it
mean,
with Michael Stone. Like, why can't we do it with Martin Firk?
that's very true. I forgot about the legend that is Michael Stone. You mentioned giving the young guys some flowers. I mean, let's not forget we have a guy named Jacob Pelche playing for the Wranglers and currently ripping up the Wranglers too. I mean, if things go south in terms of just performances, is there world we see him maybe come up, and is that somebody that we can also potentially add on to PP2?
So that would need a lot more roster shuffling than I'm necessarily comfortable with right now. That would require probably Matthew Coronado going down because he's waiver exempt. You would probably need to send down Klapka, which I think is coming once Igor Sharangovich gets healthy. And I don't think Sam Honzek actually sticks with the team after he recovers from his injury. That's just my opinion.
I uh
I'd give him some time to heal and get stronger in the A.
I will agree with
That's
you. Yeah.
get him the playing time. Don't have him sit eating popcorn for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, he played in the Western Hockey League last year, so he hasn't really gotten that taste of American
And
hockey.
didn't play a full season there either.
No, I think maybe I want to say it was in the ballpark of 27 games. It wasn't many, and so he hasn't been tested at the AHL level, and that could be a really good outlet for him to develop his game a little bit more before trying to make himself more of a mainstay on this roster.
We saw that with Matt Coronado when he went back down, rebuilt his confidence, and then came back with a vengeance. So you have to hope that might be the plan, short term and long term. And I'm going to answer a question that I see. Matt C jumped off for a bit and may have missed it. Did we talk about Perek? We did not. That was on the Game On's video. So if you want to get some news, it'll be there. But we don't have any results. And just, I think it's probably smart for us to wait until the Ontario Hockey League has an actual investigation ongoing before we make any comment. The report is that something unsavory may have been said to instigate that incident. So I think that's all I feel comfortable saying at this point, Matt. I think you're probably in a similar boat.
I agree. I will say we don't have the full information of what went on, and by no means do we want to be potentially spreading information that maybe is misinformation or something that's not correct. So I will say until we maybe hear a little bit more of the details as to what happened, at this point we're kind of just monitoring I guess the situation and seeing what let's say more credible sources say at this point. So
Sources closer to the story, because
yes,
I'm not driving all the way to Saginaw anytime soon to sue. So we'll
very true.
let people closer to the story get the facts straight. But as soon as anything comes out, we'll let you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, is there anything else we want to kind of add here before we call it a night tonight?
I guess I'll add one thing. It's good to see. Actually, this should have been in our bits and bytes. Jonathan Huberdeau. He'll never score a pretty goal in this city again, was something that you said in our talk before
Yes,
we went
I
live.
completely forgot I mentioned that. The Jonathan Huberdeau of old, where he was doing the, highlight reel stuff, all that stuff in Florida, I'm of the firm belief is now the Jonathan Huberdeau of the past. He will forever be our rebound king, our net front scramble king, because at this point, it seems like that's just the majority of what we're seeing from him, and tonight was no different.
At least he's not passing it on a 2-on-1 breakaway when everyone is expecting him to.
I don't know if he
That
had
was
a.
yesterday night.
I was about to say I don't think he had a 2-on-1 opportunity tonight to do that. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I'm just putting it out into the universe. I'm
No.
putting out the good vibes here, Matt.
I as I said to our chat before we got started tonight, I am notoriously not a very optimistic person in many facets of my life, and so I will try and be better with the game over content that we're doing today. So I hope you are right, but if I did have $1 for every time Jonathan Huberdeau did a blind spinning pass.
We could probably buy the team for Murray Edwards.
I was about to say, this season alone, I might be able to retire pretty comfortably. But optimistic Matt, I will try to be better. But yes.
Just want to give a quick shout out to Akira as well, your cousin, joining us in the chat. And a reminder, we just hit 80 subscribers. So if you hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit the share, let's get this thing going. I really want to do something special when we hit that 100 subscriber milestone. Maybe that'll be all four of us hosts actually getting out together and doing something not involving four walls around us. Who knows? Also, want to give a shout out. Get going to Wranglers games, folks. That team is a wagon. Go watch the next generation of the Flames. As you said, Peltier lighting up the A. And obviously see the Flames tomorrow, because that literally could be tomorrow we see roster changes. So
yep. I will say I will be there tomorrow night. If anybody sees me down there, don't be a stranger. I'm happy to talk shop with all things Flames. As you said as well, shout out to my cousin in Mexico for not knowing lick about hockey, but still tuning in and supporting Game Over Calgary. Appreciate the support from not only my family, my friends, but everybody who's tuning in and watching. We've already seen a lot of growth across the board here in terms of the Game Over network, and I'm sure Connor, geez, my brain is fried. Conrad
You're
can
all good.
agree with me. This is just the beginning for all the great stuff that is in store. So thank you. Without further ado, I think we are good to end things off tonight. I believe our next stream is
Saturday.
Saturday, and you're on the call, correct?
I am. It's a crossover, and it'll be on our channel because it is a Flames home game. Let me double check which one of the. It's not Ty that's joining us. Where is my brain today? I had a midterm. I have that as an excuse, right? And you had work.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Brendan will be joining me from Game Over Winnipeg. So look forward to that one, folks.
Arguably two of the hottest teams in the Western Conference. Um,
Spoiler.
yeah. One is headed in a very different direction than the other, and I'll let everybody kind of put the pieces together on a comment like that for sure. Yeah, thank you for watching, everybody. Again, appreciate all the support, and we look forward to starting up another stream on Saturday for the Jets game. So make sure you tune in there, show some love to the Game Over Network on all of our socials, and I guess have a great rest of your Thursday night.